Welcome to Coffee Break with Rachel Vigil, taking a daily look at the biggest stories in Denver sports and interacting live with you, the Coffee Break fam. So sit back, relax, grab a cup of joe, and enjoy your coffee break. Here's your host, Rachel Vigil.
Happy Tuesday, everybody. The NFL Combine kind of getting started today because there was media availability, which means we heard from Sean Payton and George Payton. And the question of the day is going to be, did Sean Payton have one too many lattes yet again? Because he pretty much spelled essentially that the Broncos are going to be moving on from Russell Wilson. They're looking for a new quarterback. And the perfect person to talk about that is the one and only James Merilatt, because we always know he's going to give us his fine and dandy opinion. Happy Tuesday.
Hi, Rachel. How are you? I'm excited to talk about Broncos quarterbacks, Russell Wilson, sort of the topic of, seems
Everything.
like every day.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much everything's out there. They're going to move on from Russell Wilson. Like, all signs are pointing to that.
Which we all kind of knew.
Yeah, this
right?
is nothing different.
But Sean Payton sort of let it slip today that they're officially going to do it when he made I don't know if it was a joke. He just kind of made a comment about how he saw a meme online.
Yep.
And we've all seen it. It's the guy wearing the t-shirt that has all the different quarterback names and they're all crossed off.
Yep.
Kind of Cleveland Browns-esque, but now it's the Broncos.
Very much so.
And he said, we need to make sure the next name doesn't get a line through it.
Yeah.
The next name means it's not Wilson.
Yeah.
Right? So, again, we all kind of knew it, but, you know, I'd been telling people, and I was more optimistic that they would come to their senses than probably anybody.
Yeah.
That I thought there was a 25% chance they would come back from Indianapolis, realize we're not going to be able to get the guy we want in the draft.
Yeah.
We better figure out how to make it work with Russ. I don't know that it's zero, but I think that the chances of that happening are pretty slim at this point. Sean Payton spelled it out for us today.
Well, and I think one of the bigger things, too, is the fact that George Payton even goes on to say, like, they could possibly trade back. Like,
yeah, well,
that's a little terrifying all in its own right there.
And that's the article I just posted at denversports.com. It was, and listen, I don't necessarily think this is a bad strategy, but if you're looking for splashy, if you're looking for headlines, if you're looking for something to get excited about, George Payton basically told Broncos Country today, don't get your hopes up, right? So he reiterated they're not going to spend big in free agency.
How do you want fans to be excited about this team?
I don't know.
How do you?
And then he was asked about trading up to 1, and he said that's hard to do.
Yep.
I get it, but what about trading up to 5 or something like that? And he's like, yeah, it's a lot easier to trade down.
Well, great.
Okay, so if this team doesn't spend, if they move on from Russell Wilson, take on $85 million of dead cap, the biggest in NFL history by more than double.
Yep.
Don't spend anything in free agency and trade down.
Yeah.
It's going to be you, me, and Joey on the hill at training camp. That's it.
Well, that's the thing. I'm like, you have to get people excited about this team. And I feel like nobody's excited. Like, you can't tell people, be like, oh, we're going to trade down and like, whatever. Come on, get us a little bit excited. Be like, we have found some potential, you know, talent that we like, since you're not going to say quarterback. Like, get people a little excited.
Yeah. And, you know, it's there's two schools of thought, right? Like, it's not about winning the offseason. Hey, they spent more money in free agency than anybody last year.
Yeah.
They went 8-9, missed the playoffs again. So I get it. You got to take the strategic approach. You got to be, you know, slow and steady wins the race.
James, I hate that.
Me too.
I want to be the fastest little hare that you're ever going to see sprinting down.
Well, and it's
because
just,
we've been steady for how long and nothing's happened. And
it's also like, you know, to get up there and say, hey, you can't do that every year and you can't spend big. It's like, hey, George, part of the problem is that you spend the money poorly.
Yeah.
Right? You're the one that gave $70 million to Randy Gregory.
Yep.
Last year, you guys went out and signed Mike McGlinchey and Ben Powers, two guys who were better at run blocking than pass blocking, and then you couldn't run the ball, and you didn't run the ball, and you didn't stick with it.
Why does he have a job?
He's the one who signed DJ Jones, who I like DJ Jones. He's a nice player, but is he great? No.
Middle of the pack.
Example after example after example of just money this guy has wasted in free agency.
Why does he have a job?
And so now it's, hey, we're not going to spend anymore because we can't do that every year. It's like, okay, well, you're the one who's wrote the checks to the wrong guy. So it's very frustrating just watching it today as a lifelong Broncos fan.
Yeah.
It was disappointing. It was a reality check. I can wrap my head around that. Maybe it makes sense long term, but it was disappointing.
Do you think they're just trying to go at a different approach? Like, clearly what we've been doing hasn't worked. So, like, let's try a whole different strategy. Or do you think it's really just Sean Payton being like, nope, this is exactly what we're going to do. Nobody else is really going to have any sort of opinions on it. And boom. Right? Because it feels like a total 180.
I'm with you. I feel like it's George Costanza from Seinfeld of just do the opposite of what you always did because what you always did wasn't working.
Yep.
So the opposite must be right. That's part of my issue with everything they do is they don't seem to have a plan.
Agreed.
Right? Like if you want to blow it up and rebuild, okay, sign me up for that. But then don't hire Sean Payton because he's a win now coach. At the trade deadline, move on from guys and stockpile picks. So they go win now, win now, win now. And now they're in, are we in rebuild mode? Like, what is it?
That's a fair question.
They don't seem to have a plan. Again, 4-13 this past year. And now you're picking 1, 2, or 3. Okay, that would have been painful.
Yeah.
But at least it would have made more sense. I see no rhyme or reason to what they're doing. None.
What if you had to just guess? Because it feels like we don't really know what their plan is like long term. Do you think this is rebuild? Is this beginning of year 1 through 3 or whatever it's going to be of rebuild?
I don't think so.
You think they're just trying to find another quarterback that they can fit and play and go for it? Or do you think they're going to try and find the bridge quarterback that then can help the rookie QB come in?
I will believe it when I see it when they take a quarterback at 12 or they move up to get a quarterback. I just don't buy it.
Well, now, do you think J.J. McCarthy's going after 12 is the question? Right? Like the mock drafts have him all over.
Yeah, exactly. It's hard to tell at this point. They're going to talk to him tonight.
Yep.
They're going to have that interview. You know, I think Michael Penix Jr. is the most fascinating guy because in between the semifinal game and the championship game, he was the player everyone was talking about.
Agreed.
And now you see, Cecil Lammey and Andrew Mason come back from the Senior Bowl and they're saying, hey, he's not going to be in the first round.
Yep.
I've seen people on national shows saying he might not get drafted at all because of his medicals, which is like, really? Nobody's going to spend a 5th round pick on the guy? Like, that's silly.
I think it's also because of the fact that, they're saying, well, he's injury prone. But is it because he doesn't put the work in the training room, etc.? He's a smaller QB. Like there's, I think, a little bit more diving into it that wouldn't surprise me when it comes to him. But at the same point, if you need a quarterback late in the draft.
Yeah, if he slips out of day, I mean, it doesn't sound like he's going to have any chance going in round 1.
Yeah.
If he slips to day 2, I think it makes sense to take a flyer on him. If he slips to day 3, I think they'd be irresponsible not to. Yeah. Right? So,
which quarterback do you want in the draft?
I think unless you get Caleb Williams, I don't think you're getting a guy that you're sure is going to be really good.
Yeah.
Like I heard Mark Schlereth this morning say he would rather get Drew Lock back in Denver than Drake May. Based on watching film and watching, the errant throws and all the rest of this, I'm like,
wow.
Okay. And I was a Drew Lock guy, right?
Yeah.
So now all of a sudden everybody's back on, chugga Drew. Where y'all been? So I was on that, right? Like losing steak dinners because I thought he should be the starter over Teddy Bridgewater, which he should have been. But like, okay, so that's the number 2 overall pick, likely.
Yeah,
is Drake May, and that's what Mark Schlereth is saying about it. And Mark and I don't agree on everything, but listen, he knows a lot about football.
Yes,
and he's seen a lot of quarterbacks. If he's saying that means something to me. To me, Jaden Daniels is the most exciting guy. He's the player that I look at and say, hey, that's got the most upside.
Yep.
If I had just a magic wand, that'd be the player I would want. But other than Caleb Williams, I don't know that there's a player you look at and say, he's surefire is going to play a decade in this league.
Yeah.
Even Jaden Daniels, but I would still want to roll the dice on that player.
Yeah. The funny thing is it felt like everybody was so hyped on the quarterback class for this draft. And now it feels like everyone's like, oh, wait, like, people are just in dire need of a quarterback, so they're willing to risk it and see like possibly what could come. But I don't feel like anybody's super high besides the top like Daniels and Williams at this point. Like Drake May has dropped off. J.J. McCarthy is obviously in the mix and stuff like that. Bo Nix, I feel like everybody's just kind of dropped off.
And Michigan, they won the national title, right? Jim Harbaugh knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
There's a reason why they have games though where J.J. McCarthy all he does is hand off.
Yeah.
Right. And I get it. They won, so you can't question what they did. But it does.
You could question it.
It raises question marks about how good the quarterback is. Bo Nix has had a 47-year college career playing for 18 different schools. Like, I mean, give me a break.
Yes.
So do either of those players excite you? Are you going to show up at training camp with your 10 Knicks Broncos jersey? I just don't see people doing that.
Amazes me about like people being like, JJ McCarthy, he's going to be great. he hands off the ball, which is exactly what Russell Wilson did with Marshawn. So, like, we don't have the running back for that. I'm sorry, Javonte's not that guy. So we're really going to have this discussion where you already are going to pay this quarterback $85 million, where you want this rookie QB to come in and do the exact same thing that they're not trying to do at all. Like, I just don't understand where the clear path is. It's not like you look at him and you're like, that guy can really throw. And don't get me wrong, he can, but like not consistently enough that I think they would put an entire game plan behind him just throwing the ball.
Right. I'm with you. And the other part with a rookie quarterback is you have to set them up for success and surround them with talent.
Yes.
Part of the problem with this team, and I said it all year long, and people thought I was making excuses for Russell Wilson. He's trying to soar like an eagle and he's flying with turkeys, right? Like the worst tight end room in the league by far.
Agreed.
The most expensive, overrated wide receiver room in the league. Yeah. One Pro Bowl season amongst them. It was 2019.
Yes.
It was before any of us knew what COVID was. Yeah. That's how long ago any of those guys made the Pro Bowl.
Wow.
Which is amazing.
When you say it like that.
Right? Javonte Williams, great story, but at some point you're averaging 3 yards in a cloud of dust.
Yeah.
You're not the right guy. And then it's, Jaleel McLaughlin, and it's the light bulb going on week 15, week 16, week 17 of, hey, maybe we ought to get the guy the ball. Some of us wrote that column before the first game that he should be the starter.
Can we get that back, please?
The great Sean Payton took 3-4 months to figure it out.
Yes.
So there's not going to be a lot of talent around a rookie quarterback, especially if they take him at 12, because they're not using that pick to get a Brock Bowers or somebody like that.
Yep.
So I just think quarterback's the least of the team's issues. And again, Russell Wilson has his problems. That's a little bit of a bold
take right there.
But it's the least of their issues. It really is.
So you're going tight ends, wide receivers, offensive line, quarterback?
I think running back's a bigger issue. There's a ton of free agents that you could go sign that could solve that problem. It's a relatively inexpensive position. I would use number 12 overall pick. If Bowers drops, I would use it to solve the tight end problem. If not, I'm taking a wide out and trying to put some talent around whoever the quarterback is, whoever it is. If it's a rookie, if it's Jarrett Stidham, if they come to their senses with Russell Wilson, that would be the path I would go down.
How about Sean Payton saying the only thing that slowed down Marvin Mims Jr. was the team? Like, was them?
Right.
Wait, what? Sean Payton, I'm sorry, I'm confused by this. If you know this right now, why didn't we utilize him more?
It's amazing to me.
Oh, confused.
Thank you, though, for pointing that out, right? Like, because I hear that this morning, and I'm like, it was as head scratching to me as when Sean Payton admitted he called the wrong play because he couldn't read his play sheet.
That's going to be my Roman Empire for forever of like, what? First of all, the fact that you admitted that is, I'll give you credit at least there, but I can't believe that stuff.
Imagine if VJ, Vic, or Hackett had admitted that, right? Or said, hey,
imagine if Russell Wilson would have been like, Coach, I couldn't see it off my, wristband or whatever.
Right.
I'm so sorry I called the wrong play in the huddle or whatever the hell it is.
I want to know when it was.
Me too.
I'm guessing, if you made me guess,
I think
it's the Detroit game.
Yeah, I was going to say that too. To be honest, there are multiple things. I remember our group chat for work, and all of us were like, why did they just call this play?
It made no sense. So, yeah, I thought
that
was
was down
interesting.
there at the goal line.
And it was, it was honest, and I like the honesty out of Sean Payton, but It also is like, wow, you're admitting that you guys, you and your coaching staff and the team, squelched this player's development. I listened to the drive the other day, and Zach and Phil were replaying George Payton from his end of the season press conference, talking about this rookie class.
Yeah.
And it was like, what a great scout team player. Like, listen, there's a reason why national outlets are ranking the Broncos draft class from 2023 as 32nd in the league, as worst. It's a bad draft class.
Agreed.
And it's a bad football team that didn't make the playoffs again, had a losing record, and your rookie class can only be scout team guys?
Which is why hearing George Payton say they could possibly trade back or what's going to happen just doesn't give anybody any hope for what this team could possibly do. It just puts you in this thing of like, what's going to happen in the next couple of weeks? One, in the next 2 weeks, we know Russell Wilson's going to be let go, right? They're going to end up paying him a crap ton of money. Now they have to figure out if they're going to go with a rookie QB or a bridge QB. And it doesn't seem like either one's going to be an exciting option. There's just like no excitement around Broncos country.
No, but
it's frustration.
Here's how there would be excitement, right? Is you go sign DeAndre Swift as your running back.
Okay.
You draft Brock Bowers. you move on from Tim Patrick and you go sign
You're moving on from Tim Patrick?
I think you have to. I mean, if they paid him a lot of money the last 2 years to play a grand total of 0 games, it's a shame. But
if you're him, I'm like, of course I'll take the easy contract or the cheap contract.
They have to bring in another wide receiver, though, right? Like, they can't fool themselves again. The Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, and whatever rookie they have is going to be the answer.
Marvin Mims.
2 years in a row.
He's coming in, everyone.
They talked themselves into, we'll be all right without Tim Patrick, and they weren't. So that would be exciting, though. If you're going down there. Do you think
this team would have been better if Tim Patrick played?
Yeah. They would have been better. Would they have been significantly better? Tim Patrick's a nice player. He's a good player.
Would he have been wide receiver number 1?
No.
Number 2?
I don't know.
About Jerry Jeudy?
They don't have a number 1 receiver. That's a problem.
They did. He may not be number 1 overall in the league or whatever, top 10, but he was number 1. He made 3 NFL top 10 catches this year.
He had some highlights. He did.
Oh, James, you have to give him his flowers. Those were insane catches.
He had some great plays. How many 100-yard games did he have?
2.
0.
No.
They had 1 as a team. It was Marvin Mims in Miami when they lost by 50. This team is a bad wide receiver group.
Yeah, but you got to give him his roses for his catches.
I will.
In the end zone, they were good.
The catch in Buffalo was amazing. The touchdown in LA against the Chargers was amazing. He had some great plays, great throws, but he made some great plays. Oh, my God. The throw in Buffalo was incredible. It was an incredible catch, an incredible throw.
But how many times? He literally, I don't remember which game it was. Not the LA game. Was it Buffalo? Or no, the Kansas City one. His toes are literally, because Russell Wilson honestly probably threw it just a tad bit out.
How many teams would Cortland Sutton be the number 1 receiver
on?
A handful, right? Like
maybe 5. There are worse teams than the Denver Broncos, believe it or not.
So, like, he would be the number 1 guy in Carolina.
Yeah.
Honestly, he'd probably be the number 1 guy in Kansas City, but Travis Kelce's their number 1 receiver.
Ugh.
But he probably would be, he would start there. They're the defending champs, but not a lot of tems.
Yeah.
So,
agreed.
I've said it all season. He and Jerry Jeudy were competing to, like, who should be the number 2 guy on this team? Because they need to go get a number 1 guy. But back to excitement, if it was Russ, a new number 1 receiver, Brock Bowers, and DeAndre Swift. Sign me up for that. How are we building upon 8 and 9?
It does seem nice.
Playoff bound.
Instead
we're going down this mess. I just don't get it.
Gives us the headlines, right? We get the headlines out of it.
I don't get how this makes any sense. I don't get if there's any rhyme or reason to this. And I don't get how more people aren't screaming from the mountaintops, what in the world are you guys doing?
I think people are. I think even you and I were sitting down here and like lifeline Bronco fans, lifetime Bronco fans. There we go.
Lifelong.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's a Tuesday and I sat in the snow for an hour and a half. Besides the point, I feel like I'm just getting more and more frustrated. Like every single day that grows, I'm like, nope, I'm just getting a little bit more pissed off each and every single day because I have no idea what this team is going to look like.
Me too.
And there's no excitement around it.
And it's twofold. It's that, and I don't have a lot of faith in the people that are going to be making these decisions. So George Payton, if you're still a believer in George Payton, you are drinking some Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
I am not a believer in Sean Payton based on all the mistakes he made in year 1.
See, I want to so hard. I want to be a believer.
But what gives you reason to believe that he still has it? He called a timeout.
I know.
To allow the Chiefs to have the ball at the end of the first half in Kansas City.
It's like my last thing I can grab onto, right? Of like, okay, well, he won a Super Bowl, so maybe it's the last thing. Otherwise, I have no faith. I don't know.
When he won a Super Bowl, I was in my early 30s.
I know.
I was 50.
Like, what year was it? 2013?
It was like 2008.
Oh gosh, so maybe I was. We don't need to talk about my.
I mean, it's. I want to believe too.
Yeah.
That Sean Payton's the guy.
I know.
What evidence is there? Here's another thing.
I know.
You see all these lists come out of like the teams with the biggest salary cap problems. 2 of the 5 worst, the Saints and the Broncos. What do those 2 teams have in common?
They both are linked to Sean Payton.
Correct. The guy is he comes in, he just leaves a trail of destruction, and then he bolts.
He says, "Oh, hey, Fox Sports. I was decent at this gig."
So he's gonna sign the Broncos up for eating $85 million of dead cap with Russell Wilson. Let's see if he makes it. Let's see if he makes it here 5 years before he's back living in Malibu and working 1 day a week. Let's see.
Which side do you believe? Russ, or do you think
Russ.
Broncos are telling the truth, or do you think it's a mixture of both?
I 100% believe Russ.
Interesting.
I thought his interview with Brandon Marshall, which kudos to Brandon Marshall, I thought he got him to open up. I thought he did a really good job.
And I thought he pushed all the right buttons.
He did.
He didn't hold back, and he wasn't like, oh, we'll avoid the Sean Payton talk or whatever.
Yeah.
He talked about it.
And, he gave him a little bit of a hard time for not going low enough, and Russ did a good job of not, getting in the mud too much.
Yeah.
But I 100% believe him.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, when he talks about how he found out during the bye week that he was going to get benched and he wasn't sure if he was going to start, and the Monday before their Monday night game in Buffalo, Sean Payton comes in and goes, yeah, you're our guy. He's like, okay,
but how long am I your guy?
100% believe that.
Yeah.
So what a mess of a situation.
Yeah.
What a poorly handled situation.
Agreed.
And for George Payton to get up there today, and he got asked about it again, and talk about how, we're moving on and everything we did was above board.
That's an eye roll.
Exactly.
That one was an eye roll.
But it's another thing if you're looking at it and just saying, I want to believe in this regime.
Mm-hmm.
Did the way they handle that situation?
No.
But the fact that people, and listen, a lot of the media members just accept this as fact. The number of people who now say he got benched for football reasons is laughable. We all knew it that day why it happened.
Yeah. The
Broncos, because they got in trouble with the league, or potentially we're going to get in trouble, tried to spin it, and people just repeat this spin. Here's
the other
laughable
thing, though, that I've put a little bit of thought into. If I'm a player on that team and I'm looking at how that situation was handled, and I'm thinking they can do that to Russell Wilson, they can sure as hell do that to me. What makes you want to,
no doubt,
work for those people? You know what I mean? Let's be honest. It may be an organization and they all make a lot of money, but it's no different than your nice job, where if upper management treats somebody terribly, I'm like, oh, well, they could do that to me then, and it doesn't make me have any faith in them.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, loyalty is a two-way street.
Yeah.
The Broncos are the longest one-way street in Denver at this point.
Oh, boy, it's tough to be a Denver Broncos fan. But always, we've got good stuff over at denversports.com. Andrew Mason, Cecil Lammy are down there in Indy at the Combine. So make sure you're following them on social media. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you subscribe and like as well. James, always a pleasure. Thank you for being on with us. And to all of you in the comments, we appreciate you every single day. And we will see you guys tomorrow, 10 a.m. for another episode of Denver Sports Daily. And right back here at 12 p.m. for another episode of Coffee Break. Bye, everybody.